If they come back.
Yeah.
We're back again. Hi, this is the Upcall, and this is part of the last part of Scooberlicious interview. We're going to get some quick questions off, but one thing I did not ask of my guest is, Prof, what memory did you of all the highlights? You were at Worlds, Beach Worlds. You had a great tournament in Kenya. You played in Bologna, Barcelona, all over the place. What one or two memories sort of rolls in your head daily, like that moment?
Yeah, I would say two, and they're both tournament victories. One was Beach Worlds in 2011.
Beach Worlds.
It was the craziest game I've ever been a part of. Upwind, downwind. And, I think the game went something like, we went up 2-0, Germany went up 6-2, then we went up 8-6, and then they tied us at 8s, and then it was universe point. So it was like, there was no exchanging of points. It was just, crazy runs here and there, and then all of a sudden, we're tied at 8s for universe point.
Nice.
And, we scored the point. Sally Mims made an unbelievable play to save the game, and it was hell of a celebration after that.
Now, where were you part of it? So you were part of that experience. Where were you part of that equation?
Yeah, I threw the bad throw to Sally Mims that she saved my butt on.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I want to understand where you are. All right on. That's good. That's very, very nice. So how often do you talk to Sally Mims?
Once every week or two that I see her at an ultimate.
But it's nice. Yeah. But how often do you recall that situation?
Oh, every other time I see her.
I love those. Those are awesome. Yeah. That's great. So let's get back to the question I want to start off with is, let's put your coach's hat on. Yeah. If you're dealing with a young team, so we'll say high school team, middle school team, they've never played sports. They've never played anything.
Yeah.
And they're they've heard of Ultimate, maybe they've been pushed out there by parents. How do you approach that as a coach?
Mm-hmm. So as a coach, I think it's most important to focus on what is attracting a kid to the sport. So if it's a bunch of kids who are not very athletic inherently, they might be attracted to like the throws and like, kind of the finesse part of the game.
Sure.
So I'd start teaching them scoobers and all cool throws and have them kind of learn the quirky things about Ultimate. And then as they're really bought in, then you get into kind of filling the holes, covering those weaknesses so that they can become complete players. But I think it's important to focus first on what makes them love the sport at first glance.
That's fantastic. Great. So let's flip it a little bit. Now you've got the same age group, but these are maybe soccer players. They're all athletes, but they don't know anything about throwing. Mm-hmm. They don't know anything about Ultimate, but they're there reluctantly, whatever. They're in front of you with athletes. How do you approach the game?
Yeah. I would try to. Well, I mean, the same answer really applies. But I might try to bring out some friends who are like good throwers and have them put in the game, so that these kids who are like essentially runners and cutters, they can do that, and they don't really need to be like feeling bad about their throws and the finesse part of the game, so that they get to play, they get to really love the game, and then you can start teaching them the throws and be like, hey, this is reality now. You have to throw. Here's the backhand, here's the forehand, and all this stuff. So
that's great. That's a great answer. I love that.
Yeah.
So the next question I have for you is, now you have a player who's college, end of college. He's looking to get an open, pro, whatever. He wants to get better. She wants to get better. How do you take somebody who's loves the sport, has an X amount of skill, but wants to get to the next level, whatever that might be? What are some of the tips for you?
Yeah. I think that the physical part is really like the kind of the key to reaching the next level. I think that when I started working out a lot harder, like, not in the gym. I've never been a gym person. Everybody has their own way to work out. But like, I'll go out and do a lot of stairs and hills and stuff. Like that's really when I started feeling like an elite player with a lot of like explosiveness. Still not as much explosiveness as the guys who actually hit the gym. But I read this interview with I think Mac Taylor about his transition from kind of like, you know, a lanky, slow dude first couple of years of college into like a really elite player by the time he's a senior in college. And it was that transition to really just like putting work into the physical aspect of it, strengthening.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So, so you have him hit the track, do hill work. That's what you tell him. So that's the main thing, the physical, rather than the skill set. Is there a skill set that you'd have him work on?
I think it's always important to work on your throws in a lot of wind. So, you know, in addition to...
I'm glad you took that, because I was going to ask that question about a lot of wind.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, in addition to like the physical aspect, of course, there's like a lot of the throwing stuff.
Right.
So I think that my biggest year of growth in Ultimate goes back to Barcelona, where I was playing on the beach, you know, 2 days every weekend, learning from great throwers who had played in the wind for such a long time. And so, yeah, just like testing out every angle of the wind and throwing enough to the point where when you're throwing, you don't even think about the wind. It's natural. Like you don't even think, oh, the wind's going this way, I'm throwing a backhand, I need to angle it like that. Like it just becomes natural.
So I touched on that with Tyler Grant, and I'm sorry I didn't sort of have him explain, because he said he was definitely learned how to throw in the wind, and that was his key to success. So, so what was, you know, you said you had good mentors over there. What were some of the tips to teach people? Because it's very interesting. You were waxing very poetic about understanding the wind and the nuances of wind. Because when you go out to Ocean Beach and you haven't played a lot, you're at the mercy of the wind. And so you throw with like, I'm going to overpower it. So you knew, so what were some of the tips that told you how to read the wind or how to throw in the wind, how to interpret the wind?
I mean, the very basic of it is like inside out and low release when you're throwing upwind, and more outside in and higher releases when you're throwing downwind. And with crosswinds, I mean, you really just have to experiment with inside outs and outside ins. And so one thing that I think is important for every player to like practice a lot is to see how inside out they can make their throws, because no matter how inside out you can throw a backhand or a flick, you will eventually go up against a headwind where you cannot keep it inside out. Physically impossible. So the more you can keep it inside out, the better off you'll be in those strong wind scenarios. So
what do you mean you're not able to keep it inside out? Because if you throw it inside out, what's going to happen with the wind? It's just going to take it away? What do you mean?
The wind will take it from that inside out position and then flatten it and turn it over to an outside in. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So the longer you can keep it flat and keep it from turning over, the better thrower you are. And that's really like those high wind scenarios are where like the truly good throwers come out and they shine.
Fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. I love that response. Thank you. So the next question I have for you is longevity. I mean, you're coming off an injury, knowing what you've known now. I mean, what is your secret to a long? I mean, was there something you would do differently to so you wouldn't have the pain? Because your pain comes with love of the sport. You're just playing a lot.
Yeah.
But is there something you would have done differently? And knowing what you know now, what would you do? What would you want to do going forward?
I think I would have done a lot more research on my body and the impact that Ultimate Frisbee has on it. Granted, like, 5-10 years ago, there wasn't nearly as much research as there is now. But there are some really cool people doing amazing work on like the ultimate body and what this sport does to your body. So like, do some reading on Ren Caldwell's page and people who are thinking about like what does it do to your body when you pivot 500 times on one foot? Like what does that do for your imbalance?
Sure.
And that's something that I never thought about 5 years ago. And I wish I had the research available and had the willingness to do that research back then.
So what would you have done to mitigate that? Lifting or not pivot as much? Or
pivot on the other foot. Like
balance it out. Huh?
If you're going out and practicing, if you do 100 throws right-handed on your right foot, do at least 50 on your left foot.
That response is way too logical. Pivot on the other foot. Okay. Yeah. All right. Wow. All right. Good.
Yeah.
So, I was talking to a friend of mine, and his son was in Italy. That was a friend of mine. He's a friend. I don't even remember his name now. But he was recalling that he brought his son to a woman who's in the Ultimate Hall of Fame. Weird story I'm telling here, but bear with me. And the question was, what's the secret to longevity? And the answer that the woman gave was, don't lay out as much. You definitely don't lay out just gratuitously. I mean, definitely pick your moments to lay out, because what I say is the earth is undefeated and you continue to do battle and the earth doesn't budge. So, I know guys who will lay out on concrete because they want to go after the disc. And you're like, why are you doing this? This is pickup. Or, maybe you want to make sure you lay out when it's on the field. But that was the tip. That definitely preserve the body. And
For sure.
Pick your moments.
Yeah.
Or play more beach.
Exactly. Along those lines, just play more beach. Yeah. That's the real key to longevity.
Case in point, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The earth does not win in that. Yes, she's very gentle on that one. Exactly. So, now, you did a stint with Dogfish and did pro. What's your feeling having had referees, observers, and spirit of the game? Where are you in the pantheon of these options?
So I think that having referees in an ultimate frisbee game is inherently not as good as self-officiation. That being said, I am for the pro leagues because of the visibility that they provide.
Sure.
And the value that they bring to the community. I think that it's really important to keep all of the other levels of the game self-officiated.
Sure.
But I don't have an issue with a pro league that has referees.
Yeah.
I mean, my personal experience is that having referees kind of takes the control out of the player's hands. And if there's a call where I know that I'm fouled, and my player doesn't call the foul on himself and the referee doesn't see it, that's just like it's kind of a hopeless feeling when
Sure.
you're like, I've played this sport my whole life and now I don't have the control to call that foul.
Well, especially when you turn to the
hard.
opponent like going, dude, you know what's up. You would expect your
Yeah.
opponent would have gone, hey, you're right. I should have.
Yeah. I
understand where it comes into. By the way, Matthew, if you want to chime in about referees and stuff, that would be great. So you have no problem with it. You understand it, but you definitely don't want to do it. Spirit of the game, I think it speaks volumes. Absolutely not. I mean, that is a major building block of ultimate frisbee. So I see that going. So okay, let's turn to the Olympics. So if it happens, and if it manifests itself in 2024, what will it look like? What do you think it'll look like if it does pop up in the Olympics in 2024?
Good question. I
Look in your
think it'll
crystal
probably be beach.
Okay.
I think it'll be co-ed. I would not be surprised if it's 2-on-2 co-ed for true gender
great.
parity.
Good. Okay. So four person.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Did not see that. That's a new one. Okay.
Yeah, it's just I think that's the way that the USAU is kind of directing the path.
Very good.
Yeah.
When I was talking with Tyler, he talked about just reducing the footprint because it is being on beach. You can reuse the volleyball venue potentially.
Yep.
Having two genders is more stress on adding more fields. You have to displace somebody or have more fields. It's more time. And having two different genders means more accommodations at the Olympic Village. So having a mixed gender, and even if you do four-person, that reduces the footprint of the sport even more so.
Yep. You can fit on those smaller volleyball.
Yeah, very much so.
stadiums.
So I mean, it's a smaller, it's a greener footprint all the way around. So yeah, that's an interesting thing to even put out. So I like that sport.
Don't take my word for it. I'm not in
No,
charge.
we're looking through the crystal ball. I'm just looking at people's ideas
Yeah.
because it's always interesting to add different layers. I think it's going to be beach. I think it's going to be mixed, and I think it's going to be an American soil because I think that's where someone's going to give the nod to say, hey, well, this is an American sport. And during the Visions thing at USA Ultimate, they sort of said it'll probably give the nod because it's the American sport. Whoever, like the Japanese who won the Olympics, they were able to bring in some sports. They have the ability to bring in sports that are more favored to that country. So
Gotcha.
I suspect that'll probably play out if we get the bid and might be LA. On that note, I think we're out here. I just want to say I've had a great time. This has been a great guest.
Yeah,
Thanks
you.
for spending the time. And I'm going to be down at the Spider game against the Growlers when they come in. We'll be doing the Spider cast after their great game, and hopefully the win. And I'll see you down the road. And so I'm Lawrence McKendall for Scooberlicious Ultimate, and my guest Mike McGuirk. And
Thank you.
We'll see you down the road. And thank you very much for tuning in. Take care.